Wasn't just in front of my face. Do you hear me like this? I mean, like yesterday when Hansaru on this one, because the other day when Hansarupa was speaking, like I could not hear him, but then you did something. Okay. Where are my notes? Don't push me. Don't annoy me. Because I would even forget the words of the phrase.
Oh, I started the stream already.
Huh?
I started the stream already.
Really? Seriously? Don't stream Parent Up, please. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjari Jaya Radha Kunjabihari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Varachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we're reading today from Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, titled Maharaj Parikshit Cursed by a Brahmana Boy. And we're reading from the text number 34. Brahmana ikshatra bandhurhi. Brahmana ikshatra bandhurhi. Griha palo nirupita. Griha palo nirupita. Sakatham tadgrahet vihamshtah.
Sakatham tadgrihet vastah.
Sakatham tadgrihet vamshtah.
Sakatham tadgrihet vasatah.
Sabhandam bhoktum arhati.
Sabhandham bhoktam arhati.
Sabhandam bhoktum arhati.
Sabhandham bhoktam arhati.
Brahmana ikshatra bandhurhi.
Brahmane shatra bandhurhi.
Griha palo nirupita.
Griha palo nirupita.
Sakatham tadgrihet vamshtah.
Sakatham tadgrihet vastah.
Sabhantam bhoktum arhati.
Sabhandham bhoktam arhati. Brahmane shatra bandhurhi. Griha palo nirupitah. Sakatham tadgrihet vastah. Sabhandham bhoktam arhati. Brahmane shatra bandhurhi. Griha palo nirupitah. Sakatham tadgrihet vastah. Sabhandham bhoktam arhati.
It's 1:18:34. Bandhurhi. Griha palo nirupita. Sakhatam tadgrihet vashtra. Sabhandam bhoktum arhati. Brahmanair, by the Brahminical order. Kshatrabandhu, the sons of the Kshatriyas. He, certainly, Griha Pala, the watchdog, Nirupita, designated, Sa, he, Khatham, on what grounds, Tad Grihe, in the home of him, the master, Dvashtra, keeping at the door, Sabhandam, in the same pot, Bhokum, to eat, Arhati, deserves. Okay, so, and the translation, but His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Ki Jaya. The descendants of the kingly orders are definitely designated as watchdogs, and they must keep themselves at the door. On what grounds can dogs enter the house and claim to dine with the master of the same plate? And the purport. The experienced Brahmana boy certainly knew that king asked for water from his father, and the father did not respond. He tried to explain away his father's inhospitality in an impertinent manner, befitted an uncultured boy. He was not all the sorrier for the king's not being well received. On the contrary, he justified the wrong act in the way characteristic of the Brahmanas of Kali Yuga. He compared the king to a watchdog, and so it was wrong to the king to enter the home of a Brahmana and ask for water from the same pot. The dog is certainly reared by its master, but that does not mean that the dog shall claim to dine and drink from the same pot. This mentality of false prestige is the cause of downfall of the perfect social order, and we can see that in the beginning it was started by an experienced son of Brahmana. As the dog is never allowed to enter within the room and hers, although it's reared by the master. Similarly, according to Shringi, the king had no right to enter the house of Samika Rishi. According to the boy's opinion, the king was the wrong side and not his father, and thus he justified his silent father. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutale Swayam Rupaka Damahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Shah Shri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. descendants of the kingly orders are definitely designated as watchdogs, and they must keep themselves at the door. On what grounds can dogs enter the house and claim to dine with the master of the same plate? So thank you, dear devotees, for coming. And so today's verse is very interesting, as any other of them. And I was thinking actually about, it is very interesting that Maharaj Parikshit was cursed by a boy. Basically, he was cursed by a child, you know. And if we will take a look on psychological explanation of this, like, condition of human growth, we will see that 10 years old is the start of teenage period. And teenage period is actually very, very interesting, because this is the age when our mentality changes from the child mentality to the adult mentality. And it's very interesting that in this time, kids, they develop the ability for abstract thinking. It means that in this age, they learn how to see things on the longer perspective. It means while they are young, they don't really understand the consequences of what they're doing. And basically they don't have any fear of what they're doing. So they just act very impulsively, right? Is it the right word? Like, they just follow the impulses. And so the Maharaj Parikshit, he was cursed by a kid, basically, who could not really understand what he's doing at the moment, right? Even if after that he regret. But at the moment of the action, it was very natural for him to do what he's done. And in this, we can also see that all the situation was just, created by Krishna, just simply to let the Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam be spoken. And in this purport, I found, like, for me, the one is most interesting sentences is this one, that mentality of false prestige is a cause of downfall of the perfect social order. We can see that in the beginning it was started by the unexperienced son of the Brahmana. So yesterday, Chandrasekhara Swami Maharaj, he was talking about these 4 orders of life, right? And he said that it's very important to follow the follow qualifications of each order very clearly. And today I wanted to go more deeply into qualifications of Brahmana, actually. It's very interesting because Srila Prabhupada, he said that, so he basically created the whole movement for training the Brahmanas. And because he said, even if 1% of the human society will be trained like brahmanas, the life will become much easier. And he compared this to the smell of the rose in the garden. For example, even if it's only one rose in the garden, but the smell is so strong that it can cover all the garden. So similarly, brahmanas in the human society, they are this rose smell, I can say. So yeah, and he also pointed that it is not really important on which like which qualification you was born with, but it also it's really important which qualification you develop through your life. And so if you will be properly trained as a brahmana, you can attain Krishna very easily, and it will be beneficial for all the human society. So, and these qualifications of all four orders of life, they are described in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, starting from 42nd verse, from the Brahmana description. But actually it's not even, so in Bhagavad Gita, it's also interesting, like in Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioned only 9 qualities of Brahmanas. But in different sources like Chaitanya Charitamrita and some others, I just don't remember clearly the names right now, it is mentioned that it's actually 12 qualifications of Brahmana. So it's quite something, I can say. And let's take a look on what actually these qualifications. And before we start, I'm very curious to ask our brahmanas sitting here. So, what is the most important qualification of being brahmana?
Forgiveness.
What else?
What else?
Yes.
What?
Austerity.
Austerity.
Okay. Any other ideas?
Peacefulness.
Okay, it's nice. But it's not what I wanted to hear. But anyway. Yeah. No. You're right. Like in Bhagavad Gita, it is said, peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the brahmanas work. Sorry. So, but Prabhupada is pointing on a couple of them, which he thinks like the most important actually in, developing the other qualities. So, first of all, brahmanas are known like truthful. Truthful and you're trying to count the qualities. So truthfulness, and he pointed also on controlling the senses and tolerance. So tolerance is very important because even here in the purport we see that this son of the Brahmana, he was very concerned of what Maharaja Parikshit did to his father. But just because he could not follow, he could not express this like tolerance, right? He could not apply apply it in the right time, he cursed the Maharaj Parikshit. So tolerance is very important for brahmanas in modern society. And then in the Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in 7th canto, 9th chapter and 10th verse, there are verse about Prahlad Maharaj, and this is one of his prayers. I really want to read it to you, because he's extending these qualities of the brahmanas, right, from 9 to 12, and he points to some other. Okay, let's see. If a brahmana has all the 12 of brahmanical qualifications, and they are stated in the book called Sanat Sujata, but is not a devotee and is adverse the lotus feet of the Lord, he is certainly lower than a devotee who is a dog eater but who has dedicated everything, mind, words, activities, wealth, and life to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee is better than such brahmana, because the devotee can purify his whole family, whereas the so-called brahmana in a position of false prestige cannot purify even himself. So it's a very nice verse. And basically it is saying about so brahmanas, they are trained to be brahmanas, right? They can develop all these qualities. But we can understand that if they not applying this knowledge in service to Krishna, the qualities, they just like qualities, they have no power, because the real point is to develop this relationship with Krishna. And it's also said that if we simply dedicate our mind always thinking about, so basically we need to engage three how to say it, I can't find the word. If we can engage our mind, our body, and our words into service to Krishna, it means we will be more qualified than even more qualified brahmana. It means so, and Prabhupada explains how we can engage our mind. It is simply always thinking about Krishna. And our body, it is serving to Krishna. And our words, always talking about Krishna and chanting his holy names. And just by following this, even if you're not born in a Brahmana family, right? But if you have these three simple qualifications, and it's actually the mercy of Krishna in the age of Kali Yuga, that we can follow just only these three principles, and we can surrender to Krishna through this service. And Also, it said that so in the sentences which I read before about the qualification, but properly following the qualifications, and also it's mentioned that the false prestige is a cause of downfall, right? And Prabhupada also explains that pride which we have is a material level of existence. And Krishna gives us different qualities. So even being a good Brahmana and developing these qualifications is a mercy of Krishna, because he gives all our abilities to use them into service to Krishna, right? But if people, they just use the first part, right? They develop the qualities, but they don't properly use it, it has no sense, because only servants and devotees of Krishna are most dear to him. So by his mercy, we are given of these abilities to develop qualifications. But if we just remain on this material level of existence and becoming very proud of what we have, right? Because we think it's given to us for our own sense gratification. But this is not really true, because it's given just to perform the devotional service on a proper level. So the way of not fighting, but so Krishna also says that devotee is never proud. He is humble and meek. And these things are Krishna's, and okay, let me start from the right way. Okay, these things are Krishna's. So it means all the qualifications he gives us. These things are Krishna's. I'm his servant. I have got the opportunity to serve him with all qualification. And if I'm highly educated, if I have got good knowledge, if I am great philosopher, scientist, everything, if I do not engage all this qualification to Krishna service, then I shall naturally become false proud. And that is the cause of my fall down. I will never be able to approach God because I'm not humble and meek. So, it means that we need to understand one, like, not really understand, but remember, we need to always remember that, and we're coming back again and again to this thought, that wherever we learn from the Vedas and whatever we do, it's all attain us to the pure devotional service to Krishna, right? And whatever qualifications, whatever talents he gave us, he just gave us to help us come back to him. By the mercy of our spiritual masters, we can properly be guided on this way. And it's very important to stay in this like humble way of thinking and use whatever is given to us to use in Krishna's service. And thinking about Krishna all the time and talking about Krishna all the time helps us as well to use whatever we have in his service. And we need to remember that whatever wealth we have, because it's not only like qualities we can develop, also you see that different people, they have different situations, right? Somebody is like can develop like this wealth, and but if he uses it for himself, he becomes very selfish and proud of this. But if he would use it to service to Krishna, it would mean that he uses it in the right way, and everything becomes easier in such a way, and everything makes sense, and this is how we can follow, this is how we can actually continue in our Krishna conscious life, right? We should always remember why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing, and not to be fooled by any success or any fortune we might be given at some point, right? Because life always changes. We have our ups and downs, and sometimes when it's so bad, we're trying to remember Krishna. But when everything becomes good, it is so easy for us to forget about Krishna and to forget about our real goals. So I guess this is the main points which I wanted to share with you today. And thank you so much for listening. I hope it had any sense. So probably you have any comments or questions, you can share now. Yes, Divyanka, please.
Thank you so much for this class. So you were talking about this, qualities of the Brahmana,
Mm-hmm.
and I just happened to listen yesterday one class with my senior grad sister,
Mm-hmm.
and she said one thing about tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you have to be tolerant, right? And then we have to be tolerant in the way that we have to also always think that everything is temporary.
Yes.
Because when, if somebody tells you that, okay, you just have to tolerate forever, right? You will become very frustrated. But if if you just think, okay, I just have to tolerate, and you know that everything will pass, good and bad. If it's, we have to be tolerant also, not only when bad happens, because when bad happens and we're tolerant, it helps you to go through, really break relationship or something like that, right? And, stay calm also. But
Yeah.
when something good happens, right, we also have to tolerate. We also have to think that, it's all temporary. And in this way, we'll become very sober.
Yeah.
Everything goes. And in this way, it will be easier to tolerate because everything is temporary.
Actually, it's a very nice point that you said that you should tolerate not only bad things but good as well, because you see, it's very easy to forget. And and one more point about tolerance. Again, if we find this Paramatma in our heart, right, and we always remember that we are souls and we are parts of Krishna, and if we try to see everyone's like a soul, not this conditioned body, it would be easier for us to tolerate as well, because we will simply see Krishna in everything, in everyone. So this is one of my life hacks, when I find it difficult for me to tolerate like anything, like situations or whatever. First of all, I'm trying to think that, it's temporary, and it's actually beauty and perfection of life. Just remember that everything is temporary, and if it's good, it is good. But not enjoy it too much. When it's bad, also don't suffer too much, because today, tomorrow will be a new day, and it's always like this. And if you will try to switch your mind into other way of thinking, right? We always need to remember. It's important to think not only remember about Krishna, but also remember how to remember about Krishna, because that's why basically we have this experience, right? We should learn something. And if you went through any difficulties in your life and you already know what you did to overcome this, you just need, to collect the knowledge and apply it again and again. So it means that tolerance, you would always need to tolerate, always, because life changes so fast and sometimes so unpredictable, and sometimes we even don't know. For example, like this coronavirus happened, so this is something extraordinary, right? But this is also the lesson how to tolerate everything, the situation, the people, and just how to stay calm inside, not to be bothered by the situation. It doesn't matter how bad it is, right? But even if in this situation you see the presence of Krishna, you see that he did it with some purpose, it would be easier to tolerate it, because then you will remember it's also temporary. Okay, today we have coronavirus, tomorrow. You see, it's very funny that if you go outside and see how many people actually outside already. You see, we were on lockdown for 2 months, or how much? Two months, right, already. And in the beginning, everyone was so concerned about this. And now everyone seems more relaxed. But it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that virus has gone. It just means that people change their attitude to situation, and that's how they can tolerate what is going on, around us. So, and if you will try to tolerate, for example, how to say it, to tolerate in advance, right? It would be easier. For example, when something happens unpredictable, and you just in the beginning of the stage, you should remember then it doesn't matter how much time, in 2 months, 6 months, 2 years, it will pass, and try to see yourself in that future, and try to understand that it was not so bad actually. So why you were so freaked out by that? Why you could not tolerate it in advance, before you got disturbed by situation. So tolerance is very important. And unfortunately, you see this son of Brahmana, he just could not apply this knowledge. It's also one of the reasons because he's a kid, and he had this knowledge, but he didn't have practical knowledge, right? He could not apply this in reality, so he did not follow this Vigyan. That's also one of the reasons why happened what happened. Yeah, but it's all Krishna's plan, so what to do? Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and yeah, Hare Krishna, please have a wonderful breakfast in 10 minutes. Okay.
Jagadhatri-devī Dāsī ki.
Jai. Grantaraj Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.